Good morning, everyone. I'm Randy Reed. I'm the Executive Vice President and co-founder of the Washington, D.C. Arts Angels. This is part of our series of Breakfast with Randy. And we're here to talk about innovation, entrepreneurship, and all those sort of issues you need with a startup company. I'm here with our guests and associate of the Washington, D.C. Arts Angels, Aaliyah Hulse. Good morning, Aaliyah. How are you?
Morning, Uncle Randy. I'm doing well. How are you doing this morning?
All right, great. We're seeing a little bit of sun this morning. So that may not happen for the next few times because we'll have a time change soon. But
That is true.
we'll enjoy a little bit of light coming up.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was occasionally I get invited to speak at events about investment. And this past Saturday, I was on a panel discussion about investment in films and TV, media, that sort of thing. It was hosted by my friend Jason Tarico, who created the Latin E Network. It's a channel devoted to all the issues and fun things about the Latino and Hispanic community in the United States and North America and abroad. He started this about a year and a half ago, and he's had tremendous success reaching out and showing how the Latino community parties, what it does in business, all sorts of great stuff. So this was his first big conference, and he wanted a panel discussion on several panel discussions on how do you start a TV channel, how do you create a film, what's the business, what's the personal issues, all these different things. So he had some very good speakers, and part of the panel was with me and the two Kolev brothers, Marty and Sodi, who are experienced investors as well. So the question was, how do you invest in films? So how do you think films are invested in, Aaliyah? Any idea?
I am pretty new to the world of investment, even newer to the world of filming, but my guess would be to approach it like a business.
Absolutely, you hit it right in the head. Now, I don't know that much about film either. However, I was operations manager for Real Affirmations, a film fest here in Washington, D.C. for about 5 years, and I was involved with it even longer than that. So I do know some of the issues that filmmakers have to go through in order to get a film made. And it's tough. Let me just tell you, it's a lot of work, just like any other startup.
Are you telling me it's not like, like they show in the movies? It's just you just have an idea and you go and put it on?
No. Like everything else, it requires time, dedication, hard work, and it's more than just having a vision or having passion or having a story you want to tell. Okay, and we see this. So it doesn't matter whether it's a startup where you want to create an app of some sorts or you want to create a film. Now, in both instances, whether it's a technology company or film, the costs of starting a company actually have never been lower. It is so easy to make a film physically, so much easier than it was 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. Everything's digitized. You can edit everything on your laptop. There's lots of software that will do all this. You've got really advanced cameras that will shoot every angle, everything that you want. You can do all this post-op technical special effects, things like this. And you can do it all from your laptop. It is so easy and so cheap. Okay, and that's a good thing. The other side of it is that anybody thinks that they can create a film. So we get a lot of junk films out there, people who are just fooling around, trying to do stuff. Now, I shouldn't say junk, that's a little pejorative, but they wouldn't have any commercial value. That's what I mean to say. Okay, but you have to learn by doing. So I know a lot of people in high school who make films, and they just do it in their backyard or in their house, and it's a lot of fun. Have you ever made a film, Aaliyah, or wanted to make a film?
I actually have. I went to, as part of my training at Sage University, it was this year we had film school, and it was on Ibiza Island, and we created a film with our cell phones. And all the editing, we always shot from 3 angles, from 3 different cell phones. We had a director, so it was like redoing the whole real life experience. And it took us about 6 hours to film everything. And
Wow.
a total of usable film was about 10 minutes.
Wow. See, it can be done. Anyone can make their own film, which is great. You can make your own films for your own use or for limited distribution, send it out to your friends and family, but you can even put it up on YouTube. Not a problem. All that's great. But we're talking about if you want to make a real film that gets distribution and earns money for you. Okay. Now it's a little bit different from just doing some sort of hobby, but you have to start off somewhere. So what you did is a perfect example of how filmmakers get started. Okay. Now the
I
danger
doubt
is that
anyone would pay for it though.
well, see, that comes with time. You just have to be persistent. And that was one of the messages we learned at Jason Tarico's seminar was you just have to be persistent. You have to keep doing it, keep pounding away. The more you do, the better you get at it. It's just like anything else. If you want to practice piano and become a good pianist, you have to practice, and you have to keep doing it and doing and doing. And you have to perform. And sure, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to flub up, but that's part of the process. Okay, so it's nothing to be scared of. It's something you just, if you want to do it, just take it seriously and do it. Uh, but the danger is that a lot of people think that making the film is like 95% of the process, and that raising the money to pay for it is just like 5%, or even how to generate revenue. And what I told everyone, actually, it's just the opposite. It's about 5%, maybe 10% of creating that story and filming it and getting it in the can. But the other 90% of it is, how much is this going to cost? You have to put together a budget. How much do you need to budget for makeup, costumes, sets, insurance, attorney fees, casting, paying yourself and paying your cast members, production crews? How much does this all cost? You don't want to have surprises. And then where are you going to get the money to pay for all that? So you can easily do a film for $50,000 or $100,000. So you can, a lot of people max out their credit cards. That's how they do it. That's one way to do it. It's not, I don't recommend that because you end up paying a lot of money for that. But if you can raise that money through your own savings or friends and family, a lot of people go on Kickstarter and ask for, hey, give me 25 bucks to get started, and I'll give you a free DVD of the film. So that's one way to do it. But you need to start with the budget. Okay. Now, if you've got a movie that's all about an alien space war, that's going to cost a lot more money because you've got costumes and sets and special effects. They got to have monster looks and things like that. Versus if you're going to do a film about what it's like to be a teenager today, where people can wear their own clothes, you can shoot it wherever. Okay. So do you see how the budget could be hugely different just depending on your subject matter?
It's so interesting because it's so similar to just running a business, but it seems that not everybody takes filming as business. And we both have a friend that we know who is in the film industry, and that's one of the things he always brings up is, there's plenty of great ideas there, but nobody does the back end work of calculating that budget or approaching filming from the business perspective.
Right, absolutely. And I have a friend, Ron Newcomb, who really does know this business very well. And every year he does a film summit here in Washington, D.C., and he'll be doing one in the next few months. So he brings in real Hollywood people, producers and directors and studios and all these different streaming organizations. Now, believe it or not, there is a huge demand for stories. And in the last year and a half, 2 years, it has exploded. I don't know if you get like Netflix or Hulu or Prime Video, they want stories and they want them filmed. And there's this huge thirst. So it's not just their studios anymore. It's not just the TV networks. Okay. In fact, in many ways, they're kind of dying and going downhill. The real excitement is in all this streaming and
Right.
international markets. Uh, so why do they come out from Hollywood to Washington to do this film summit? Because they're looking for stories. They want these things. Okay. So before it used to be very difficult to get a hearing, uh, to make a pitch in front of a network or something. Now it's easy because they're looking for it. So Ron brings these people in, and he does a terrific summit panels on exactly all these issues: how to budget, what to look for, how to get revenue, how to sell the film before it's even made. So the industry has changed tremendously from whatever it was 2 or 3 years ago. So if you're reading in a book about how the film industry works, it's out of date. Don't even bother. Okay. The market has changed dramatically and just recently. So we will keep you apprised of when he finalizes that film summit, but I highly recommend it. You will meet industry insiders, and they will tell you all the things, all the pitfalls of making a film, everything that you need to know. So
That's awesome. I'm super excited. I know I went to the Latin festival with you, the film festival, and I watched two of the very short films. I think they're called independent films, right?
yes.
Yeah, so one of them was really, really interesting. You can see that these are new actors.
Uh-huh.
Story behind it was very interesting, and the way they played it out was emotional and so on. But it's interesting that you say that they're looking for stories. There are plenty of stories out there. On a daily basis, I meet fascinating people, and I'm thinking, we're going from where we watch I don't know, Thanos kill half of the planet, and Spider-Man saving the world. But I'm starting to notice that people are getting more and more interested in real life stories, like Modern Family,
Yeah.
This Is Us shows, right?
They're endless, and every minority, whether it's Hispanic, LGBT, African American, these stories are not very well represented in our media. So we need those people to write the stories and get what they want, because there's a huge thirst in their communities to see their stories up on the screen, whether it's TV or films. So huge demands for this, and this is where it changes our media as well. Once we start building up and seeing these films being made, we'll see more of them, and that affects our culture. And I know in the Hispanic community, they're a little tired of seeing Hispanics always playing roles of drug dealers and prostitutes. Okay. So, there are middle class people, even rich people who are Hispanic, but we never see them in TV or films, or very rarely. So we need to have new stories that tell these stories. Women, certainly. There's this old trope about how in almost every film, if you have two women talking among themselves, almost always it's about men. What are they talking about? Men. Okay, so in almost every film you'll see that.
Isn't that a real story? We don't talk about shoes. We only talk about men.
Yeah. So you can see how men don't know how to write about women.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So are business investors the same investors for films? Like, do business?
A little bit different, although there are angel investors who are interested in film, and the Washington, D.C. Archangels is a sister organization to Orange County or Archangels, and they have invested in films. So there are people who like to do it. Now, it can be, investing in films can be very risky. But one of the things you find out by attending the film summit by Ron is that actually, if you do it properly and you know what you're doing, it's not risky at all. Most films are made in the $5 million range. And most films that are made in that range are pre-sold and soft money before the film is ever made. So you can raise that $5 million before you make the film.
How do you do that?
Well, you have to know what you're doing. Soft money comes from tax credits, knowing where to go. There's a lot of tax issues. States will give you money to help you make a film, basically. Okay, but on the promise that the film will be made. Okay, so you can line up that money in advance. You don't get cash in advance, but it's money that will come in once you make the film. You can pre-sell this film in many markets. There's the North American market, the UK, the German market. You give them the specs on the film, the treatment, and they know, well, okay, a science fiction film, feature length, we could sell that through our different streaming devices and make $1 million on it. Now, it's not a lot of money, but it's money. And so you can pre-sell those. If the film happens to be a hit, it can make more money. But it's almost down to a science and a formula. If you meet these certain criteria, it probably will sell very well. But you have to know who the people are. You have to know how to package that film. Okay, so it's not just, well, I've got two alien wars and they're going to fight each other and the good guys are going to win. Okay, make that film, but that doesn't mean you're going to sell it. You have to have the budget. You have to show the money. You have to know that, show them that you know what you're doing. You have to put the whole thing together. You're the filmmaker. It's different from being the artist or the director or even the producer. The filmmaker has to put together a whole package and say, here's this company, this business that is going to make this film. It's going to put together the budget, it's going to raise the money, and it's going to make money in revenue. Okay, so that's how you approach any business. I don't care if you're creating a restaurant, I don't care if you're creating a robotics company. It's all about telling the investors, you know what you're doing, so you know how to raise money, and lowering the risk. One of the things that I mentioned there is, and I always say this to people, you know, if you ever go to a wealth manager, they always tell you, well, if you invest in high risk stocks or bonds and things like this, you'll get a high ROI. If you invest in low risk stocks and bonds and things like this, you get a low ROI. So that's how you do that, right? And I just say it's BS. What investors really want is they want high return, low risk.
Got it.
Okay, and you can get that. Believe it or not, you can get that in a lot of places. But you have to make that a proposition that this is a low risk film or low risk business, and it'll generate high ROIs. You make that case, you'll be able to sell it.
Sounds like there's a lot of education that needs to happen on the business side of filmmaking.
Absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
somebody who wants to make it's more than just an idea. It's also knowing how to build a business around it.
Right. And unfortunately, they don't teach this in film schools. Ron goes to all these different film schools to teach all these things, like a special one-off lectures. And he's always shocked and surprised that film schools, they tell you all about how to write the script, film angles, theories, stories, all these different things. But it turns out that it doesn't, that's only, like I say, it's only a small part of making a film. So I wish film schools, but you know, it's the same thing about just about any industry. Nobody tells you about the business, how to make it work.
Got it. So what would be the first step? I know we have to wrap it up, but what would be the first step for someone who has a great idea? Attend the summit?
Well, of course, attend the summit, but if you don't have a summit in your neighborhood or your city, whatever, find a filmmaker, someone who's actually gotten a film made and sold and put up on the big screen or on TV. Most communities will have at least one person around there. Find out everything you can from them. Work with them. Okay. Don't waste your money going to a film school thinking you're going to learn how to make a film. You'll learn how to. You can do that on your own, like you've done it. Okay.
Got it.
I know a lot of filmmakers who never went to film school who made wonderful films. There's a lot of film fests. Get involved in your local film fests. Almost every city has some sort of film fest. Get to know who they are. That's all. It's easy to get involved in the film industry, believe it or not. You can start somewhere.
And it sounds like if they can't find that, they can reach out to you or myself, and we'll point them in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Filmmaker.
Send us an email anytime.
Yeah.
Through Washington, D.C. Archangels, dcarchangels.com, or through Euelia.
Sounds good. And mine is MWM Systems. My website is finally live. So it's www.mwm-systems.com. And they can
Great, excellent.
there directly. Well, thank you so much, Randy. And I think this was fascinating. Again, film industry is very cool, very new
Oh, yeah.
to me. But I hope we can continue on this conversation further.
Absolutely. Well, thank you and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.